Lords and ladies, welcome back to MyStreet 5 years later with your host, Jacob Butter. Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking. Just before we actually get onto the meat of the subject, the main source, if you will, there's one thing I've got to address first. So, while this was going on, I obviously before streams, hold on, I've got to get this out of the way. Before streams, I usually have a bath and then I start. And then, so while that was happening, Aiden happened to see the message and I guess checked on the upload dates of this video, and he sent me a message without really like saying much else, just saying, "Jacob, this video was 5 years old yesterday." To which I say, that's a bit strange because, again, I checked the dates. In fact, one was going to be because I looked on there. And then I remembered something. Because with season 6, when season 6 was coming out, I was reviewing it on the day as well. So I have a whole playlist. I guess not a playlist. I have a whole set of reviews that are of these episodes when they came out. And I remember that one of the I had, connection was, there it goes again. One of the issues that I had was that one of the episodes came out at what some commenters said was at midnight, which they didn't say what their time zone actually was, but if it's premiered at midnight, potentially from their perspective, somewhere in the US, that was either going to be at like 9 p.m. or something at California time, because that's where Blue Jay Studios at the time was based, I'm pretty sure. Or it was like actually midnight for them. If so, then whatever date that they would have said for most of the US, if it was like midnight EST, most of the US would have seen that as on November 3rd. And I, however, saw it on November 4th because midnight for them would have been further away for me. So that's why I have this image here, which shows the proof that this is indeed, says for me this is November. So if any, blame the midnight submission for that one. And also, I guess while we're here, read the description. I try to save everyone at the end of the day. Perished, left alone. What world could I give? Tried my best, and maybe that's all I could do. Pretty sure that's a Lady Irene quote. And now, there we go. Okay. Again, so, which is it's that I happen to see that this is for November 4th, not November 3rd, because actually November 3rd is the anniversary of MyStreet itself. Or at least if you count the big move, is the anniversary of MyStreet itself. I know that even Aiden, for example, doesn't see the big move as canon, even though it was like the whole starting launch point and it was deliberately kept the same. But whatever, that's not going to enter in that subject for now. Need the tangents. So, but either way, including the big move, MyStreet is what was 8 years old yesterday, which would have been a great time to release, I guess, this video, one of the latest things in what has become the final season. So I guess that's neither here nor there. This episode is also the one where I actually recorded with Maya and Shiny, I think. And that was the famous one where Shiny actually said, "Wait, well, that's a guy." And I also had to split it into 4 parts because it was a long review. So if anything, you're going to be late. It was a video. I'd already done improperly. So yeah, much like 5 years later, I've had to bend the rules at times, but not one of these times. Hopefully that is all clear now. And so I can say, I can present the snacks, I can present the milk, and I can present the video. Hey guys. Oh, I forgot. I still have the Pride background from yesterday's charity stream. So if you don't know, yesterday as I'm recording this, I actually played I actually played a Harry Potter Trivial Pursuit with like 4 different, as I say 4, but it's actually 5 in total, other people who, came and went essentially. And the idea was to raise money for the charity project because that's, why not support the project at the same time as doing something with the J.K. Rowling IP? I mean, that to me will never not be funny. So I guess I just forgot to change the banner from before because I needed something that was like a background for it. We need something nice, ominous. There you go. That's ominous. That counts. All right. Now it is time. Without further delay, no, I'm kidding. I'm not going to steal that. That's KW's thing. Without further ado, on with the review.
Guys, Jess here. And are you an emotional wreck like I sometimes am? I mean, like, I have a slew of other problems.
Yeah, we are from the last episode. It's probably what everyone was thinking at the time, of course.
But I also am pregnant right now, so I'm like all over the place. Anyway, be sure to check out our wolf plush because honestly, I've always believed in the power of a plushie, and it doesn't have to be this one, but this one is absolutely adorable.
I have a plushie. I'm just imagining like a Scrappy-Doo plush going plushie power now. That's not a good image.
And we have it on sale if you are interested. It also makes a really nice footrest, like like I've been lying down and I'm like, you know what, I'll put this right here and I put my feet on top of it. It's actually really good. So yeah, if you guys are interested, be sure to check out the description down below. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Take care. Bye. Hey, and don't use me as a footrest, please.
I think that's still on sale. I think that's like the one piece of how much that stood the test of time, and it's still like on sale on the news store, so I think you can still get that.
Take care, guys.
Not this though. I got this the moment I could.
Status report.
Mostly quiet here. A few guests have shown up, but we've pointed them back towards the crowd.
What? Don't send them here. The crowd is in an absolute panic.
Aren't the crowd dead? I mean, actually, some of them aren't. Okay. Yeah. So I just sent a message because Shiny is like, huh? What is, What if I can get Shiny to guess this time? Let's see. And get through it in one go this time because of live streams.
We have critically injured and there's a riot taking over a dock cruiser near the villas.
Do you need backup?
Immediately, abandon the post and make towards the shopping sector.
Yes, sir.
Everything's gone to heck.
Rodriguez, we're getting out of here. Can you provide support from the air?
Wait, what? We're leaving?
Lieutenant just said we need it in the shopping center. Guests are going nuts and there are injured people there.
You're gonna have to give me a second. I can't get off the ground that fast.
Don't worry. Just
Oh, he says
radio
no.
us when you get
Just
Overwatch.
checking.
We're headed out.
He says he's tired, so never mind.
Hello?
I was looking at Discord trying to fly back, and I still knew who that was. Good old Toby.
Like it belongs to you anyways. Captain?
Did he roll afterwards? I don't know. He's on the floor for a bit, and then he rolled away. No. Well, he pushed you lightly. That guess you can't do anything else.
Another earthquake?
Okay, why does an earthquake affect a flying helicopter? Like, I know it's a magically induced earthquake, but still, that should not happen. But I do love that visual of trees crumbling down. I'd never seen that before. This is the season where I started to call them the Masters of Visuals, and I stand by that. Like, even the waves crumbling away. I'd still, 5 years on, don't know how they did that. Or 5 years in a day, I don't know.
Is everything all right?
It's holding together. All this stone and earth.
It's holding. Why is the alarm? This room always has like an alarm that goes off, even if nothing is wrong.
I'd be surprised if we didn't lose a few systems.
The gravity wells haven't been activated in more than a millennia. There's just so much weight above it.
Still doesn't explain why you have a whole technology center here.
Focus the cannon.
What about its ability to collect?
Ah, that system. It looks fine.
Imagine if it wasn't. This whole plan just like, oh well, looks like I have to delay everything. Excuse me, I gotta make a few calls. Yeah, voices. Yeah, change your plans. Go back to positions.
Good. None of the other rooms matter. How's the prototype room? The one we found the old man in?
It's in the middle of the cannon. It hasn't received any damage.
The middle hasn't, but the rest of it has. Ah, oh, this scene. This scene, the one that was I'm gonna have something to say about this in a second. Let's play it for now.
You never told me you were going to kill her!
Actually, he didn't. That was Ian's doing.
What does it matter? You were so willing to put Ian in harm's way. I just assumed you felt the same way about your daughter.
That's not the same!
See there? Starts to click. Remember film in season 5 when Savannah said that the reason that she kicked Michael out was because she found out that he had a child from another marriage, which actually was also in the trailer. And yes, this is indeed a guy called Michael. Again, if people don't get that reference, go check out the original videos. I just need to make a playlist with those things.
What allows you to value the life of one of your children over the other?
And that's where it is, that line there. So at some point, in a random description of a different video, Jess actually said that apparently this was a red herring. What kind of other interpretation can this be? A red herring is supposed to seem like a clue or a revelation and not be deceptively presented to you. What deception is in those lines? What other possible interpretation could be that one of Zach's children over the other being valued? We know that he has 2 children. Michael knows he has 2 children. Michael clearly has been around Zach enough to see how he evaluates one child over another, so therefore he knows exactly what he's talking about. What is the other thing? If there were other clues to maybe, like, I don't know, some other sort of possible answer, but again, having watched this back now, and also the rest of MyStreet up to this point, there's nothing. Continuing on from here, I don't think there is either. I don't recall anything else. In fact, this is the last time it's ever even mentioned. It's just dropped after that point. And you know what else dropped after this? The minigame Sibling Rivalry, starring aphmau and Ian, one of Chris Escalante's really first situations of being, you know, the Ian that everyone clowns upon, rather, you know, just being like invited to random minigames during the Phoenix Drop High Season 2 days. So clearly, something isn't right with that. And I'm normally the first person to, you know, jump into some sort of theory and say, like, okay, well, if the show creators aren't going to present an answer, then let's have some fun and come up with something. But yeah, I got nothing for this. What to say? Oh, speaking of theories, by the way, I did start the Rachel Lycan is alive theory script a while back after the last episode, which was like 2 weeks ago. The reason that's not out yet is because of course I started, you know, hyper focusing on the people above because of Gacha Life 2's release, and then also having and then also having that go out, and then the song that Aiden needed urgently for the main Mrs. Dysart, which actually was just used in the episode that came out today that I haven't seen yet. Yeah, I just have not had much time to go back to even to that script at all, really. So maybe from this point onwards, unless something else major happens, we just are going to write more people above tomorrow, but who even knows?
Either Either they both matter, or they don't.
Again, he sees them as the same. I don't know what's going on here.
You made your choice with Ian, and I just balanced it out.
That kid was a monster!
And who's to say he wouldn't have been if you stuck around?
So he didn't stick around with his other child either. So he didn't go to see the other family. He just went with Michael, which it seems interesting that Michael now is like begrudging that.
You were never able to sense how useful your offspring were.
I think he was. He just didn't agree.
He had such a longing for greatness, and he valued his heritage above everything else.
And also, not to mention, he made a lot of the decisions. This implied that it was like under Michael's control that he did everything that he did, which I don't think so. They teamed up together, but it was Ian's like natural motivation to get revenge on Aaron and to capture aphmau, and of course with the revelation now of the action as siblings, that part seems weirder, considering that he wants that he tried to make his fiance. But yeah, so and then of course Ian going after the werewolves, like placating them as alphas. Has that got much to do with, or was that just a trap to like lure aphmau back in and therefore get rid of her and trigger Aaron even more, like to go to the ultimate state? That's entirely possible, I suppose. And saying that out loud and internalizing that now, it makes a lot of sense. But that could have been just like they're on the same wavelength. Was it originally Michael's idea to go after the werewolves, even though Ian would have wanted to do that regardless? Was it Michael's idea to have Aaron face Ian on the bridge? Maybe it was, because again, who else but Ian to channel his anger towards in that moment? I don't really know. I suppose it could be either, and Michael's saying it is this one, so I guess that takes... It's interesting, because that seems like almost like trying to excuse, like, make Ian's death like more tragic to people, like, oh, he was manipulated so much, taking away like the whole idea of him being super villainous, only to then have him like be the one clowned upon in mini games. I don't know what to make of that, really. I'm not sure. Or maybe the attempt was just to make Michael seem worse. That's possible too.
He needed a leader.
You and I both know that he was born that way.
Yeah, nature versus nurture. That's not really gonna fly here.
You just like to see people suffer beneath him. That's why you liked him so much.
Such
Yes. You just proved his point.
potential. Too bad his ego got in the way.
Oh, so it was his ego that got in the way. Or was he lying at? This conversation is very confusing. Red herring aside.
He was never able to think 2 steps ahead, and therefore it was a liability. I almost killed him myself for his arrogance. In the end, he made his own choice to serve me.
He made his own choice. Okay, there we go. See? This is what I mean.
He was just a pawn, like she was.
She didn't deserve to die.
Again, Ian made his own decisions. He's trying to say that. I know he's trying, as a father, he's trying to channel his anger now because he can't do that and he can't go after his other boy because his other boy's gone too. His other child, I mean, but whatever.
Zach,
You forget your place, sir. Oh, dang it. It cut out. The audio cut out. I need to hear that line. I didn't hear it. The audio cut out. No, it's one of my favorites. I need to hear it.
She didn't deserve to die.
Come on, come on.
Zach, do you forget your place?
You forget your place, sir.
Oh, that you were willing to sacrifice. What's done is done. Don't you dare undermine my decisions again.
It's weird, like, again, like, what's the ultimate objective here with Zach? Because Zach seems to be just there. He just hangs out with Michael for a bit. He hasn't really done, like, much else himself. Other than, I guess, what happens in this episode. But we'll get to that.
Or else, I'll have to subdue you just like every one of these mindless drones. Get the prototype room ready.
It'll be ready in less than an hour.
Bring
Thanks, Pat.
Derek and the old man there when they're finished.
Yes, sir.
I want them to see it firsthand. And Zach, you'll be the one who activates it.
There we go. It will be revenge for him, I suppose. I think this is another scene that we need to talk about, and the one that Aiden has complained about. Just casually, not like in his reactions. He started with like in episode 13 for some reason.
Aaron,
There we go.
can you hear me?
You just only one person here.
Aaron, they are going to do something horrible to you. You cannot stay here.
I deserve this.
Also, do you miss the part where I'm like tied and gagged? I can't exactly move right now. Unless he can, it's all psychological.
What happened to your determination?
You told me to accept who I am, but in the end, they were right. I am a monster. Murderer.
No. This doing was not of your own. Someone wanted you to fall. He wanted you to suffer.
It's all...
You're saying someone, he's met the someone. He knows who it is now. Why is this... Why is he saying like a mystery? Everyone knows you're talking about Michael. Even if he doesn't know by the name of Demon Warlock yet, it doesn't matter. That's still the person we're referring to.
my fault. Everything. It's my fault.
You have the power to leave this place. The power to prevent further destruction.
I guess Michael's just being very cocky here. You know, like, I've broken his spirit. He's not going to go anywhere, and I know it. Therefore, let him see that he has the power. He's not going to use it anyway. Not after what happened. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I don't want to anymore. I just want to vanish.
Aaron. My power is a dying light. On its last breath.
You cannot come back from this.
Just let me go.
I'm sorry, does he have the power, or can he not come back from this?
If they take you, your soul will not return to the stream.
They have taken you. They have taken him. He's there already. Do you not know this? You see everything, right?
Will cease to ever exist again. And a third lifetime will never be possible.
I just
There
want
it is,
to
third
die.
lifetime. Although, actually, that's a massive mystery because Aaron doesn't know about the third the fact he's a second lifetime. He has no clue what she's referring to right now. Which probably was, if in a better mental state, would be questioning like, wait, third lifetime? Who was I before? Or something like that. Also, if your power's dwindling, Irene, a third lifetime is possible anyway, because the corporeal fragments, as far as I understand, like they're the people that you chose to reincarnate. So if you don't have the power to choose anymore and you're not around, how is a third lifetime ever going to be possible if your power's dwindling? Doesn't matter what Aaron does.
The man I knew lost everything. Somewhere, I decided to give it back.
Except you didn't. That Aaron lost his wife and 2 kids. and the entire village that he was the lord over. Yes, you reincarnated him to reside in that village, Falcon Claw, except for Phoenix Drop High. Not only did he want to leave after that point, you also reincarnated him to the species that he was that he like they had like as his sworn enemy. You know, the original Aaron was, you know, like the enemy of werewolves. The demonic broadsword was brought on because it is this sword that was able to slay werewolves much more easily. And also, you reincarnated him into this form and into this bloodline, which I still don't get why. If you do actually care about Aaron, why this form of all things? Like, we know that Irene wanted to save Aaron, and that was like one of Diaries aphmau's biggest blows, like emotional blows, and also the reason some people couldn't get past the original Minecraft Diaries. They didn't want to see how it ended in the world without Aaron. That's a powerful moment. So no, you should not give Aaron everything back. If anything, I would say yes, his life is better this time, but it's still not great. What are you on about? And yes, originally this was the moment, of course, we reveal like how the connection of Diaries actually works and all the theories about the connections between the characters actually come true, at least on the Diary side of things. As far as all the other people from Season 1, that's a whole other matter. Speaking of that, have you seen the description? I actually did say one of the comments in here from Kai7014 says, how did it escalate from a Christmas episode with 3 guys fighting over a girl to this? That was not the first episode of MyStreet, nor was even the first episode of Big Move. But yeah, that does sum it up. I think that might have been like episode 12 or something. Yeah, after How the Zane Stole Christmas. But yeah, we have come a long way regardless of that. And if anything, this episode is going back and tying it all up to where it all began with Minecraft Diaries, in a sense. It's just looking back now, having roommates on the connection for 5 years, it's not exactly the best executed connection. Or revelation, I should say. The connection's fine. Revelation, not so much.
I'm sorry. I gave them.
Don't worry.
Please,
The old days is
stand.
market anyway.
Please.
I think she's not begging yet. She's like saving it for a bit.
It won't be long now.
I heard what you did. Your own daughter.
He didn't do anything. He confronted Michael about it. He had to do a decision. What did you, Derek? Those Wolfiers are deceiving you.
That wasn't my decision.
And you just sat there and let it happen?
He couldn't exactly get there in time, right? He couldn't run over and stop it. Or stop Michael for that matter. Because what would have happened? He would have subdued him, like he said.
You were supposed to protect her!
She had nothing to do with me.
You were her father! She needed you! She had a life, a future!
I couldn't
Is that me, or did I hear like pounding at the other side? Like someone's like pounding the walls.
do anything about it. It was out of my hands.
And whose fault is that? You're blind if you think Michael is going to lead you to anything but a hopeless hellhole!
I don't care. I'll have everything I want.
Like, except your children. What do you actually want, Zach?
Everything I've dreamt of for years. I'll be so rich that I won't have to lift a finger for the rest of my life.
And that's the other thing. Like, he's just like starting to hang out and stuff. He's been around Michael for a long time, or at least, you know, preparing for that. I mean, what's he been doing? I guess. Oh wait, no, he's been sealed away, hasn't he? He's been. Yeah, that's right. He was sealed away in another dimension with Elizabeth, wasn't he? Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. And who's gonna be there with you? Who are you going to share your fantastic future with?
Elizabeth? I don't know. I don't know, actually. That's a very good point, Derek. Wow, Zach, you're making Derek seem reasonable. Way to go. Although, again, considering what happens to Derek in this episode, he needs to seem reasonable and have, like, an actual moment here. so that the rest of what happens to him holds weight. Which rest assured, I have my thoughts on.
That's right. No one.
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
What happened to you? Why did you become like this?
Weren't you both always like this? You're the one that changed, right? You had a change of heart.
Because I realized that I wanted something no one else wanted. Everyone was content living out their little lives, their little families.
Oh yeah, they're multi-billion-dollar companies. Yeah, sure. Seems like they're slumming it, really.
I wanted more. They were just in the way.
She wanted to find you. She wanted you to be there for her big day. She knew you walked out.
I forgot that she actually sought out. It was something. I don't remember what that was ever addressed on camera.
And she still wanted you there.
That is a powerful thing. Like unfortunately, I have known a lot of people who, you know, had one parent that has gone missing. Usually the father, but and they still have that impulse. I mean, it is essentially the plot of Mamma Mia, granted, but in this case, it's not so much of like, oh, my wedding must be the perfect thing, and therefore it has to follow all traditions, including the man giving me away, the big day, and blah blah blah. No, this time it's actually because that connection doesn't go away, especially like from the child. Because in this, like aphmau only ever got one father, so part of her is always going to like yearn for that, despite I mean, understandably, you know, she would have an excuse to resent him for what happened, and most likely does. But like, you can't avoid it. It's not one of those rational things. It's not any rational thing, quite honestly, like at all. I'm gonna give that the Levi drink. There's a lot of other stuff that happens in this episode that people are going to say, oh, how can you not give it to this speech or that speech or blah, 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 blah. I'll get to why. You'll see. There we go. Levi drink for small inoffensive moments. Well, not offensive, but one that unfortunately applies to other people. Which, if anything, makes aphmau more notable protagonist than people give her credit for. Oh boy.
You have no idea what you've done, what you've lost.
I think he's starting to realize it, but...
That is just so easy for you to say. Look at you! You took all of our wealth when you locked us away. You got to live in luxury without doing a damn thing! And now look. Look at what you lost. Was it worth it? Now your son will die because of you.
Zach, please, don't let them do this to him. Let them take me instead. Please, she was supposed to marry him. He made her happy. I'll do anything, please. Please, Zach. I'll do anything you want.
Okay, two things. One, it's very interesting to see this conversation that happened after the confrontation with Michael, because in that it recontextualized this for us. If we saw this without knowing, we would have seen like, oh, you know, Zach is just a cold-hearted monster, you know, reaffirms like everything we thought about him originally, and and even though he has like, a couple moments where he sort of seemed to have a conscience, they didn't really like amount to anything. So it would have been very easy to just, you know, see him as just as heartless as Elizabeth, or possibly even Michael. But because we got the conflict with Michael first, the actual real Zach that is still like under the wing of Michael, but is now starting to probably realize it. We know that he's putting on a front. Derek is the person who knows better than anyone else at the moment, like how much Zach has sacrificed and how much he has lost and how far gone he actually is. Like he said right here, all this stuff that Derek has just said, Zach has probably been telling himself for a long time, but he has to pretend like it doesn't affect him because he doesn't want it to affect him, even though it already has. That's another thing. Structure of this episode. Symbolic leave my drink. Yeah.
Please.
I'm sorry.
See, almost for a moment, he relents,
Zach, wait.
then off it goes.
He doesn't deserve this.
And second other thing is that, yeah, Derek is actually now realizing, like, oh, yeah, what have I actually done? All of this stuff. Which, again, I'll get back to that part. I know I'm saying that a lot this episode, but trust me, you'll see why.
Let them take me.
And that's different from Chris, too. He doesn't get a lot of credit for playing Derek. He got a long distance away, actually, before... in between those shots. I was wearing his shoes there.
What have I done?
Okay. Now the thought occurs to me. In the VidCon video, after she has no idea how she's going to live up to season 6, and in that of course would essentially mean, you know, increased, you know, increased visuals most likely, because the story can go in a number of directions, and still satisfy. But as far as like evolution of Minecraft roleplays go, once you get to this point, it's very hard to say, oh, I need to like step back. Rosie Clossie was like the only example I can think of someone who has actually, you know, done that successfully and like justified the reason why and have people understand it for the time being. But yeah, if anything, now I think about it, actually, all the advancements she's made since then, all the different new mods that have come out, the way that she's integrated into the games, the way that, and just the editing on like on a regular basis, actually, and how like, you know, jam-packed that actually is, and the increase in movement that you can do with regular Minecraft rather, well, or modded Minecraft, I suppose, without having to resort to animation. There's a lot of things that can be done now. This is still the era where you had to like, you know, use like, you know, frozen models or something if you want to like portray a certain type of movement without the animation parts, which again was like a huge struggle here. So again, I think actually that'd be a fine thing to do as well. I don't know about the rest of the visuals or anything, but then again, you say stuff out for like the end of the world or something. For the most part, again, it can go back to lighthearted MyStreet fairly easily. But oh well.
Rowan, was I a good dad?
No. No, you were not. Under any definition, you were horrible. You are the worst. Also, how does he hear you?
In your opinion, how did I do?
Dude, I'm like 1,000,000 years old. You have to project a little bit more.
Derek, you are one of the best fathers that I have ever had the grace of meeting.
Oh, no. Stop it. Definitely not. There's no way that he's letting him off the hook for this. There's, like, it's one thing to say, that, oh, you made a lot of mistakes, but, you know, you'll be, but you did it for these reasons, blah, 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 and that's what makes you so good. No. Like, that's one thing, but that's a far cry from saying you're one of the greatest fathers that he's ever had the grace of knowing. That is way too much. That's like calling Sylvana the best mother. Just that no one would do that.
In my lifetime, you did your best with what you had.
He had millions, and he did his worst with them.
With what life dealt you.
Life dealt him an amazing hand, apart from the curse, which he then branded like all of his trauma onto his son, and didn't think of any other solutions other than what he could go through himself. He didn't seek out everyone else's advice and was too proud to admit when he actually made a mistake for a longest time. Only now, when he's about to lose his son, does he even consider that he might have actually messed up. Derek is awful.
You never hesitated to do what you felt was best for your family.
Which was the problem, because then if anyone questioned him, he wouldn't listen.
Even if it meant playing the bad guy.
He's being the bad guy.
And courageous. and you've persevered through some of the worst hardships that any man could have faced. You know, your dad, he asked me that same question the night before he died. He was so worried about what would happen to you. He gave up everything so he could protect you and your brother.
And
I mean, that's just a basic thing. Like, there's like, oh yeah, protect you and your brother, and then like have that be so like, oh yeah, there could be another like him, in that nothing happened to him. This is the first time that Rowan's actually revealed any connection to Derek's dad, and also that he seems to, like, just go through the generations working for the Lycans, it seems. Even though the other Lycans didn't actually have the means to hire guards and such, maybe they were just friends. Which, again, if you go back to Falcon University, that connection does not seem to be there. Like, he does his job, but if anything, Rowan's the one who undermined Derek the most during that. He knew about everything that's been going on here, and with this conversation, you have to presume that he also knows about the Ultima, considering he knows how and when Derek's father died. Which says to me that, again, even if he prioritized Aaron's happiness and knew that he wasn't going to do anything ridiculous, and even when Xavier was going out of his way to expose the secret, he didn't actually report that to Derek at all. Because Derek had already made that mistake in the first place and probably wouldn't believe him. He's trying to expose him. That's also another thing. He hired Xavier. At the best means in the world, at the best what life dealt you Xavier. That was not a smart hand to play. And but then that brings the question: why is he saying this? Why does this character of all people think this? And why is this backstory just scotch taped onto him right now for this episode? And the reason is because we have to feel bad for Derek. This is the episode where we are supposed to have like the big ones like, oh my goodness, this is why he did this and that and blah blah blah, 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 blah. Similarly to what happened with Sylvana at the end of season 5, where it was suddenly revealed like, oh, this is why she was like this and whatever. It's why she's been borderline insufferable for this time. And if anything, I do see why Sylvana got to where he was. It was an explanation, not an excuse, but it was still better than nothing. So I forget to turn the lights on. I forget that's next to me the whole time. But in the case of Derek, like the person who got to him the most was aphmau, if anything. After the whole holiday magic incident, as he starts to at least appreciate, I mean, from his first appearance, I guess officially, but he starts to appreciate everything that I guess that Aaron has achieved, like Aaron has worked towards, and the life that Aaron has chosen for himself. He starts to understand, but only after 30 plus years of raising Aaron terribly, disinheriting him when he actually stepped out of line in his mind, and just sending him out into the world, and also trying to like recommission him to bring in the just for the sake of helping the family business. The business that essentially tore apart his family in the first place, and that he was forced to run and try to turn into something good. Unlike what he did with his son. He sent him off to military school so he wouldn't have to deal with him, begrudgingly let him attend high school, and was still told the teachers about him and kept him under surveillance. None of those things sound good. But we're supposed to forget about all of that because MyStreet, again, it was 3 years old as of this video coming out, or 3 years and a day. All that information is stuff we collected like over a long time, but don't remember everything about it. Most people tend to like look over FCU, Vancouver University. Most people season 2 of Phoenix Jump High was actually even before that. It was a long time ago. So now we're just like, oh, all these like vague things that I have in my head that I can vaguely remember, like him doing and playing the bad guy. It's because he had to. There was no other way. It was an unfair situation that only he could deal with. Well, no, he could have asked for help. He could ask for advice. He could have asked the person who clearly knew his father and what mistakes he'd actually made. No, he did none of that. He started turning into like Bruce Wayne or something, talking to Alfred here. Your father asked me the same question before we were shipped off to Burma together. I don't know, something like that. So that, but it doesn't work, because again, if you remember everything and you remember the reasons why, you remember everything that Derek has done and said, and the justification he's given before, he has justified himself. It just didn't happen. It's only when someone else has to validate him right before he meets his eventual fate, because otherwise we would feel nothing. We would feel relief potentially. Get rid of the ultimate one likes instead of the one that everyone is rooting for, and the one that has been wronged this whole time. Derek was like the intergenerational one. His father sacrificed more for him than he ever did, and he actually somehow learned to control his curse without security guards everywhere, because his father didn't have the means to do that. He was dead by that point, I'm pretty sure, from the graphics we see later on, and just by, I guess, living his life and learning by himself, he could have guided his son in the same process as him, instead of like not having anything to do with him and trying to just turn him into a carbon copy of himself. The soulless businessman who has to be that, and who has to have somebody who has seen him grow up tell him he's done any good in the world. Again, Derek is the worst, and despite the effort here, alas, I still feel nothing.
In the end, he just wound up dead.
He gave his life for you. That terrible night. The night your mother and her family were killed. He transformed into that beast as soon as he found out about what happened.
Which is, I guess, a mirror of what happened with Aaron, and that's why Michael knew to push those same buttons. Again, he might have led Ian to that situation. I tell you what, actually, I say that. Michael led Ian to the water. Ian took a sip. There we go. That's the metaphor.
And then the Guardian forces thought he killed them. I don't blame him for what happened. He loved all of you so much.
And he was never there when I needed him.
I wonder who were... Yeah, okay. Actually, you know what? See that? See Derek? He was never there when you needed him because he was dead. What's your excuse? Nothing. See again what I mean. Also, I wonder if it was Michael who ordered those deaths to occur. Like, Derek's mother and her family.
He was always there, even now. You know this. Sometimes a parent needs to sacrifice their own well-being in order to protect their children. You should know that better.
But don't sacrifice your children's well-being, which is what Derek did. Unlike his father.
Than anyone else.
No, he doesn't. He did the opposite.
And he made sure you would be okay.
Did he ask you to watch over me?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You've always been there for me.
You stupid potato.
Since then, everyone...
Yeah, and then I fired you.
else left. But you.
He didn't want you to grow up alone, Derek. So I made a promise.
He didn't want you to grow up alone. What did you do to your son? You made sure he grew up alone. Or did your best effort to do so. Any social activity? Boom, done. Good lord. Also bear in mind that Rowan is human, so again, he knew the risk that was actually that's going on. Still decided, okay, you know what? Human interaction is still a good thing. Whatever.
If anything happened to him or your mother, then I would be there for you.
So no one told you life was gonna be this way.
And every action he took was to protect you.
Everything that I haven't done.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
I really was.
I love he said nothing to say there. Even he doesn't know what to say. Like, he nor the writers. No one can justify this anymore. They're done. They have no leg to stand on.
A bad father. Melissa.
Oh, I just realized this is the same song that that Aaron played during his proposal to aphmau, which I guess reminds people that yes, this is ultimately the aftermath of the death of aphmau.
Aaron. Rachel.
And the song that Aaron chose, because yeah.
So sorry.
Now again, people will say to my theory of Rachel Lycan being alive that why did he reference her there as if she were dead? Did the same for Melissa. Same deception. Just saying.
I just wanted to keep you all safe.
Derek, Aaron is still here, and he needs you. He's not gone yet, and there is still hope. Don't give up on him. He has as much potential as you did.
No. He has more. He always has.
That's the only sentiment, there's no statement so far that I've agreed with. And I'm glad that he finally realized it.
And let's do something about this.
Okay, here we go. The other. I guess all of these scenes people talk about. I said that, oh, this scene people talk about, this scene people talk about. Yeah, this whole episode people talk about these scenes, but not for the right reason, I don't think. Oh yeah, I guess he's just not like. So he stands up in his
Come back from this. You need to be the one who saves yourself.
I wonder what they could do if he actually did decide to save himself. Would those guns work? I don't actually know. And again, Zach just being there watching from afar, knowing for the first time he might actually have to take action.
On your knees.
Michael wants you to witness what happens.
Yeah, that's probably why that. Yeah, they don't explain that. We, the audience, know, and
try.
Yeah.
It's no use. These aren't ordinary cuffs.
We need to break free. Aaron, what did they do to you?
Did they, sorry, he heard about the aphmau part, but not about this. I almost said good dog there.
Beautiful, isn't it? Being able to see such a beast completely subdued.
I can't let this happen.
Sir, there has been no sign of the blue sword in question. We've scoured the perimeter.
I already told you, you are not going to find it here. She already took it back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she took it back before they arrived here, right? I don't know. Whatever.
What is it going to do to him?
The Celestial Cannon. A device so powerful, it can move meteors, comets, anything that threatens our world. and it was fueled by the souls of an entire civilization. However, that fuel can be used another way. It can be used to create objects of absolute power. Objects known as relics.
Okay, Zach would know what a relic is. The people who've only just watched MyStreet might not know, but Zach of all people knows exactly what a relic that has to be. Like, come on.
For thousands of centuries, relics became lost to our history, completely unknown to mankind. Objects are myths and legends.
Wasn't Irene's relic like a well-documented artifact that was used like in both of her times on Earth? Are there no like scholars like original Emmeline anymore?
But I've lived for so long, held one in my hand at that.
That is true. Diary Season 3, that did happen.
That only I know of their capabilities. But they have a lifetime, be it a few hundred or 1,000 years. And in order to create new ones, sacrifices must be made. The goddess Irene was not the matron history paints her as. Her
Apparently, history forgot a lot of stuff about Irene, as I've just explained.
powers came from an individual human soul that she cultivated into a relic. Her own daughter.
So that could mean a few things. Again, 5 years I've ruminated on this idea. That could mean a few things. The presumption, of course, was that refers to potentially Alina or maybe even Lilith Garnett. However, we know that Irene's relic was actually made before either of those two were born, because that was done at the beginning of season 2 of Minecraft Diaries, whereas Alina was born towards like the last quarter of it, and Lilith Garnett was found, I don't know, also towards the quarter, like a little bit earlier. So yeah, no, not them. In fact, Alina holds a relic as well, which also implies that that must mean that Irene, the previous version of Irene, the one before Diaries aphmau, had a daughter. And this is something that we've gone back and forth on a couple of times, because I remember, at the end of Diaries Season 2, again, Hyria mentions that Irene, unlike what people thought about her, because Levin was presumed to be a descendant of Irene originally, and the rest of his family and such, like the Lord of Phoenix job. Yeah, he was presumed to be a descendant, but then it was revealed by Hyria that Irene didn't actually have any children, therefore could not have had descendants. What that meant for Levin's family, we don't know, because obviously that was just, that could have been an error of history or a lie they made up at some point that was then documented as fact. There's a number of explanations. Doesn't really matter. What does matter, I guess, is that in this context, Michael is now saying, again, the complete opposite, that Irene did in fact have children, or at least a child, a daughter, that came from before that time. And that's interesting because, again, Hyria is the only person who has claimed that to be like an erroneous account. So perhaps she didn't know about Irene's daughter at the time. If anything, that kind of makes a lot of sense. Hyria is not exactly the most maternal person in the world, and didn't have a daughter for like 870 years or something like that, and then Lucinda came along. So if you think about that, and then by that point, she was already very like detached emotionally because she has been alive for so long, and therefore cannot have the same emotional attachments as someone who has been alive for less time. So again, if that was something that she started to already feel like was happening, because again, the flashback Hyria looks exactly the same as the modern day Hyria, which means she was probably already quite old by the time that Irene was around. Perhaps she just didn't feel like having a daughter's attachment was like a huge thing, and therefore Irene just straight up never mentioned it to her. That's entirely possible. Who knows? That's my best guess. Maybe that's a future aphmau theory. Irene lied to Hyria or something like that. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice one. I can see that being a good title. Again, if I ever get back to theories, because again, Rachel not being alive, it's weird. Like watching this 5 years later, like you think about so many more theories, but for like this point in the series, it's one of those things, I guess. But that's what happens when you tie your show to Minecraft Diaries. You get a lot of those. Yeah. So, as to whether Irene not sacrificed her own daughter's life, or her daughter, volunteered that innovation, or some other circumstance, we don't actually know. Again, Michael has proven to also be much like Hyria, a little unreal. So again, who even knows? It's possible that she actually did have a daughter, maybe didn't, or did have a daughter but didn't sacrificed. Who knows anymore? Again, Michael's the only one who's been alive for that long, and therefore the only source that we have to account for this. I guess except for Ghost, but Ghost doesn't remember this right now, so that might be a thing for season 7, if that is even remembered by the time that enters production. Anyways, rant over.
And she did it in this very room.
Again, why does this room have technology in it if no one's been there since then and it's still able to be activated the same way? Was it actually meant to be used via magic before? And this is all new stuff that Holler installed over the years? Did Holler get tech savvy? I still want an answer to that.
And now, it's my turn.
Let him go!
I'm so glad that I guess Derek has like a microphone. Sorry, not Mike. Derek. Michael has a microphone somewhere near him, and therefore he can be heard at this point. Because otherwise, there's no way that the notoriously deaf MyStreet characters could hear a non-amplified voice from that distance.
Take me instead.
That's the third time he said that this episode.
Derek, I already told you. You don't have what I need. Not anymore.
Yeah, this is also another problem. He does that. Technically speaking, we know that Derek actually does have everything you need. We know that he still counts as an Ultima. He still counts himself as an Ultima. And it's only for... But now I'm thinking that actually, yeah, this is a bad plan to use Aaron for this point. Because now I think about it, Aaron, as far as Michael is concerned, is the only Lycan that is left alive, and therefore the only known family member that carries the curse of the Ultima. So if that bloodline is going to now die with him, whenever the relic eventually exhausts itself, as Michael has stated that it will, in a blip for his existence, then what's the plan then? You're just going to do this whole thing over again and just hope to find other Ultimas out there that happen to want this power or something? Are you going to see if Derek's brother happens to have more descendants or is still alive himself, and therefore try and get him hitched or something? This is a very finite plan, and this relic he knows will not last forever, even if he himself will. So as far as thinking from an immortal perspective, this is not very good. This is very nearsighted, even if it did take centuries to get to this point.
His uncontrollable curse, blinded by rage, his curse will produce a relic this world has never seen.
See, you could have just actually, done the stunt with Melissa and Rachel like he did already, but then just applied that to Derek, and also, faked the death of Aaron, and then tried to see if he could trigger Derek. I don't know what he did to suppress that, but I don't think anyone permanently is able to lock away their sense of anger. They're able to process other things, but as far as they have attachments, that's always an option for them. I think, anyway. I'm sure there's some monks that have trained their whole lives that are going to disagree with that statement. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But from my perspective, again, does not seem like that's a good idea. And also, again, I do feel like, actually, no, that's not right. I was going to say about the whole fight's not a cursed state of condition, but that doesn't really apply here.
All I had to do was break him down and make sure he had victims to take.
You planned this?
Well, yes, that's the whole point of this episode. How much did you actually hear, Derek? You said, "Oh, I heard what happened." Like, how much? You don't seem to be in the loop about anything. Like, you know that Aaron was captured. You knew that part before. Do you know why? Do you know how? I guess not. Do you even know why he was transformed into the beast that, you knew your father was at one point? Which, by the way, was the father a prototype experiment? Because he wasn't made into a relic. That was way too recent. I mean, we do know, by calculations, it seems that the father was actually, the Derek's father was actually like really, really old by this point. So maybe that's why. Like, oh yes, he's like 170. I think it was. I don't know how old he was, but it was very old. We calculated it before, didn't we? Because we said that like the last Ultimate attack was 100 years ago, which I guess would have meant, Aaron being 32 at the moment. That would mean like that would mean it was like 68 years before he was born, and therefore, assuming that Derek was, I guess it does sort of track maybe. If the father died young and Derek happened to be, still would have had to have Derek quite old. I don't know how old Derek was when he first had Aaron. Let's just say 30, let's talk about 30 years there. And then to say like, but that doesn't work. Because in order for the attack to happen 100 years ago, Derek would have had to have been alive and well during that whole time, which means that he would have been say that he was just a kid, say he was 10 or something at the time of that attack, plus 68. Yes, Derek was actually the really old person. He'd be like 78 or something by the time that he had Aaron. Yeah. Again, it's kind of like the match between the Fire Lords or something, and the time that they were around, and how Fire Lord Sozin apparently was like 170 something by the time that he had died, rather than the retcon that they said later on. But still, that was did not think that one through. Again, J.K. Rowling levels of maths.
Of course I did. There's a reason the Ultima is feared. And I just made sure he had reason to kill. Your son could barely control himself. It was masterful. And now he's in just the right state. A cursed soul with blood on his hands and a broken mind. Ready to accept whatever fate awaits him. It will make it easy to control.
He'll never bow to you!
He already has.
Need him to.
He literally is right there.
Point, his soul is so corrupt and broken that this relic will be fueled by destruction. It will be more powerful than anyone can imagine. Then, once I have it, I will break into her realm, and I will kill her slowly, ending the cycle of rebirth and making me the master of this world. Everything here will be mine to play.
Ending the cycle of rebirth. So the cycle of rebirth, again, for like the people that Irene cared for, which again is like a small part of her power, I guess. But then again, honestly, really, like the whole thing is just to drain her. Does he means his cycle of rebirth? Because actually, now think about it, his vessels are going to die out, right? He needs a cycle of rebirth in order to like keep that going. Or I guess the Falcon family could still exist, maybe. Yeah.
Sir, it's just about ready.
Zack, show me your loyalty.
Please,
Ooh, this is
Aaron,
good music.
you need to be the man I remember. You need to stand up and fight. Remember when you saved me from those wolves? When you saved Garth? When we stopped Shad?
Actually, we never saw that happen. Oh, I guess now we know what's to be the future. So, as far as Diaries is concerned, the last we saw of Possessed by Shad, that was Chris's first role. But yeah, like everything else we saw, like the saving from the wolves, that was when they first met. Saving Garth was actually when he sacrificed himself. Those are key moments in Minecraft Diaries. People remember those. But the thing is, the one who doesn't remember that, of course, is Aaron. Aaron doesn't know what she's talking about. And this is what Aiden complains about, because Aiden has said that this is like annoying, the fact that Irene tries to relive the way that her friends are through like their corporeal fragments. Which again is like, I feel it's like the reason that she saved them was so they could live other lives. But I don't think she realized in the process that was her creating other people entirely. If you don't have like the memories of someone else and you're born and raised a different person, you are a different person by that point. And that didn't register because it's the first time this has happened. So as far as she was concerned, that was not how it's supposed to go. If anything, early MyStreet seemed to go against that because of the whole way it was written. Again, a lot changed by this point after 3 years of MyStreet and even more time of Minecraft Diaries. My goodness. The 4th anniversary stream was around this time, wasn't it? I don't know. Yeah. This is one of those days, one of those moments where it's like, I see what Aiden's getting. I see why he's complaining. This part, I don't mind so much. I'm not like hugely fond of it. I think it just hasn't sunk in. Again, as far as Immortals go, they learn very slowly by comparison. Michael's been playing the same thing for centuries, and I didn't think that ending the Ultima cycle, having a finite relic source that he will never be able to exploit ever again, would be bad for his future. To go back to the example of Avatar, I guess, which I know that aphmau's a huge fan of, it's the same idea that Final Sozin just, let Avatar Roku die in the mountains, and then decide to like start hunting a new avatar and constantly try and go through that process. I assume not knowing much about the Avatar state and therefore not trying to end him in that form. Because he actually did go to Avatar state after Sozin left, by the way. That was how that worked. But then, cut to 112 years later, and Admiral Zhao, I guess, was he Admiral by that point? Anyway, yeah. Admiral Zhao says, "Oh, I'm not going to kill you. See, if you die, you'll just be reborn, and the whole cycle will repeat itself. I need you alive. I need you as proof or something like that. I need you to, stay here. If anything, Legend of Korra, stay here. Try to trigger the Avatar state by force to end the Avatar cycle completely. Those are better plans. But if you want to end the cycle, but what my point was like Admiral Zhao realized the importance of not ending the cycle, because otherwise they'll just keep going and this will be out of control. In this case, you have the power to end the cycle, but you don't want to. Michael shouldn't want to here. If he had another source that he could use that was better than this, he would probably do it, or have done so already. So this is his last hurrah. Then he has to spend the rest of, again, eternity, minus another like 1 or 2 centuries with the relic he's got now, without that power. What is he going to do after that? And that's why I'm saying he didn't think that through. Immortals don't learn. They've had centuries to plan that and think that through, but it never crossed his mind. And Irene didn't think about how the characters that she'd been created were different people now because of nature versus nurture. And that's why they weren't a perfect match. Dante didn't end up with Kawaii-chan this version. They dated a bit in high school, and never again. And and in this situation, Aaron was, the sworn enemy of werewolves. This timeline, he is one. And I think that's when this is sinking in. She says this now, but I think Aaron's response, from what I remember, clarifies this point.
This man, he is worse. He will take you.
Never mind, he doesn't say anything. I thought he was going to say something like, no, I don't remember that, but no, he didn't. Whatever. Apparently not, but he should have done.
And use you to kill more people. He will kill everyone you know, and you'll be gone. Only you can prevent this. Please, Aaron. I need you.
Also, I'm wondering if the reason that he never turns around to face her in this is because he can't face anyone, or because he knows and recognizes aphmau's voice by this point. Just either way works.
The console is right there. When they give you the all clear, activate it.
Yeah, he knows. Oh, this is like the technique of going back and forth between two things to say, like, you know, which one is going to happen first. Is it going to actually rise up, or is it going to be that they activate the button before he gets the spirits? And that's and the music is building during this point. It just like was an awkward thing to come back to here and repeat this point in order to get that across. If anything, cut the other part before by that prove your loyalty, have that here, and have that be the version. Because otherwise, I like the structure of this again. This episode is very well structured. The story and the justification for a lot of the stuff that's happening right here is hot garbage. But then again, no one is able to plan good things in MyStreet for a long time. Even Michael. We know that from season 5, we know that from before that and after. But yeah, but at least the way that is presented is presented in the best way that this story possibly could, even if it doesn't hold itself together.
And may I remind you of what will happen if you refuse?
No, don't, because you already told him before. We saw that scene.
We need to do something else.
Aaron, you need to get up! Get out of here!
Oh no, the nerds, they're working slowly. Oh, Aiden's here. Alright, I'll let you in. I mean, we're almost done, by the way. This is like the last scene, but I have some final thoughts that you want to say, so let me just add you in first, because I feel like if I pause during this part of the episode, I shall be beheaded or or thrown on the stake or something by people watching. So I will now proceed forward without instructions. Okay. The music is still building, bear this in mind.
It's just about ready.
It's still like a break, you hear like it's gonna happen.
At least get up and run. I cannot do this for you. If I do anything more, I will fade from this world.
I guess that is saying that they're saying like I cannot, like the use of contraction there. It's interesting because, I mean, that's not the way that Irene, like Jaire's aphmau talked in diaries. But I guess maybe now she's like gone back into goddess mode, and therefore I shall never use a contraction ever again, or something to that effect. Okay, Aiden's here. I paused anyway.
Kaka.
Hello, Kaka. I actually just got through talking about, I guess, what I think is your least favorite scene in this episode.
What is it?
I went through like remember when you saved me from those wolves? When you saved Gareth?
Oh no, that's not my least favorite scene. I just talk about it a lot as a character analysis of Irene in the context of When Angels Fall, and how, whether she meant it or not, she is inherently selfish because she's using her own viewpoints as reference for Aaron. Instead of seeing MyStreet Aaron as MyStreet Aaron, she's seeing MyStreet Aaron as Diaries Aaron, which is a very different person.
Yeah.
And,
what did I tell you, lords and ladies? That's what I was saying before.
Yeah, because, like, again, I wouldn't reference stuff like, say, something your father did when talking about you. It's like, Jacob, all that business you did. It was Jacob, you know how hard you worked. It's like, that doesn't apply to you.
Remember when you went to talk to people about the future of farming with no idea about farming, and you asked one basic question, they were like, and blew their minds? and they didn't realize that was like the basic thing they should have been doing rather than focusing on the details. You know, that part? That actually did happen to my dad like this week.
Dang. Yeah, but like, I don't know, it's stuff like that. It's like you're asking questions that don't apply to this man. Like, this man, it has no applying to it. I mean, I like the scene, but it also is a character study on, but especially when talking about Irene in relation to this series, it's like, yeah, she's kind of a tad extremely selfish because
that's why I thought this was my favorite scene of this episode, particularly, not like this like the whole.
I mean,
whole
honestly, probably my least favorite scene in this episode specifically is
Derek
probably the
Rowan,
scene
Derek
between
Derek and Rowan.
Yes,
Sorry.
the Derek and Rowan
Yes,
scene.
I'm not alone. Thank you. I spent I spent like a good 30 minutes going over like every point about Derek in that scene.
Yeah, again, Derek is an abusive dad. I am sorry, but no matter how you cut it, he's an abusive dad. Whether he had good intentions or not, that doesn't matter. And if we're going off good intentions, a lot of people who are considered bad have good intentions. Therefore, it's fine. Like, no, we gauge how their actions and how what people do affects others. That's how we gauge it. We don't gauge on I didn't mean to do that. And
Exactly.
that's what kind of frustrates me, because I feel like against aphmau's writing of excusing Derek, like she proceeds to make him the worst human being, but not give him a proper redemption arc and just make him silly and goofy during season 5, but then bring back some of the abusive parts of his character towards the end, just to have him be relatively chill, but then in this season itself, excuse the abusive parts again, because he's changed. Doesn't change the fact that he abused Aaron and gave him a lot of mental issues.
Yeah, she wants people to feel bad. I went over that whole thing, like why that speech was in this episode, why it had to happen, and why essentially it is like one of the most manipulative techniques in like the entire show. So
Felix in the season 2 finale dies, and then he's like gives a speech to Agatha as maybe he got shot or something. He's like,
was I bad, big brother? Yeah.
Was I bad? Oh man, I wish I was better to you, Agatha. And it's like, oh, you were the best brother ever, Felix. He dies. Like, we didn't fix anything. He's just dead.
That's what would have happened if Empress had a real gun in that scene, not a tranquilizer.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think Empress would be the kind of girl to own a gun. I don't know if she would like feel comfortable with a gun.
I mean, I don't know about that. Yeah, in the J canon, actually, she shares a household with a cop. So, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, but that's not really her gun, and the cop should be keeping it in a safe.
I mean that she's like around the firearms in the first place.
Oh, I was about to be like, if she's getting her cop friend's gun, I don't think her cop friend's keeping it safe very well.
Yeah, that's also not legal anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Then again, I guess now there's dropping on top of someone from like a plane from the sky that one time and roasting them and leaving them on the ground.
That
happened in a J video. That happened to Pop.
Oh my!
Like drop from the top of her. They each person, like all 4 roommates roast her. Then they just leave.
What? Oh, okay. That seems unnecessary and weird. Like, hey, Pop, I just want to tell you about how you smell and how your outfit's horrible and how you're so mean. Okay, bye. Like,
that is pretty much what happened.
What?
Yeah. Anyways, back to the episode. If anything, this interaction we just had there about like, you know, talking about the same points and the reasons why, that is proof right there that we like had to meet at some point.
Exactly.
Like, again, bear in mind that we would do, like I said this before, that you started like watching you started reviewing the series like around like episode 13 time. So again, we were doing the exact same reviews as each other at the exact same time a year before we met each other.
Exactly. The timelines converged.
Exactly. There you go. All right. Continuing.
I will die if I save you.
Okay? Then don't save him.
That's not what she's getting at. I think that she's being like, you know, are you willing to like let me die here?
Oh, you don't care about your life? Fine, I'll die.
Yeah, fine. You can't care about mine.
Do it.
Although I hate how she reveals her face in this episode, and Aaron doesn't go aphmau like everyone. Okay.
Actually, I did talk about that before. And
how does everyone have such cognitive dissonance between Irene and aphmau when they're staring directly at her? Like, okay, fine.
Not. Actually, Aaron wasn't staring directly at her. He doesn't turn to face her a single time.
Well, later she goes right in front of him and he doesn't even react.
But again, he hasn't reacted to anything that she said for this entire episode.
I think, well, to be fair, in that case, I think this is just psychology, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Aaron gone completely catatonic, which, to be fair, when I'm under a lot of strain and pressure, I also go extremely catatonic and say nothing and stop processing things.
Yeah. This episode is 28 minutes and 53 seconds long. If we assume real time, because it does seem to like play a little bit like that with like a few jumps here and there, but if we just, for the sake of it, say it happened in real time, that's at least 25 minutes of Irene trying to psych Aaron up and like get him to move away. Only like walks in, kneels down with like no resistance, doesn't even try to escape over here. He has the power to do so, like she says that he does. All of that time, I don't know if like going in front of him and just like, you know, like guys was like, "Don't you understand? Snap out of it!"
Yeah, but again, you know, but we also get into this with later with the Evelyn flashbacks, because we literally see Ghost / Emmeline have flashbacks when she's with Irene, and she doesn't go, aphmau, you look surprisingly like sound and look like Irene. Or like someone I used to know. Like, come on, there's no acknowledgement, and that's always annoyed me. Because, like, when Irene's involved, no one acknowledges how, she sounds and looks familiar somehow.
I don't remember the details of that scene, so I guess we'll get back to that when we address that.
Yeah, I think that's, like, episode 13, maybe.
Oh, okay. I definitely need to have you for that one, by the way, because, again, paths converging.
Yeah.
Anyways, if I pause much more with this scene, people are gonna shoot me, so...
Yeah.
Okay. Music's all up again.
Zach, don't. Please.
Don't.
Please.
Don't. Yeah, he can't hear him, we know.
Yeah, but like, listen, if he doesn't push it, Michael will push it. Someone's gonna push it, they're right next to the button regardless.
Aaron!
What are you doing?
I like these.
See, he was still not looking at her during that time anyway. Okay, now he might see something.
Yeah, and he also looks at her when they go to the Irene realm next episode, and he's staring directly at her when she's dead.
Okay.
Like, listen, okay.
Alright.
She doesn't look that different, her hair's slightly different. Oh, this is such a beautiful segment.
See, the music drops and the animation cuts in. Again, structurally, this episode is brilliant. It's a shame what had to accompany it.
I mean, I think the Irene and Aaron bits, I just don't like the whole Derek bits in this episode.
Which is most of this. And then also the red herring. The red herring was this episode too.
Oh. They just leave Derek! Like, yeah, Derek's escaping, like, I know he probably can't get anywhere, but still.
Yeah. I bet it's like the only scenes of tenderness in this entire life with Aaron.
I know, right?
That's not even of him. That's not even with him.
I think that was his life flashing. That was like his life flashing before his eyes, and he was holding baby Melissa, not baby Aaron, because baby Aaron wasn't born with werewolf ears, and Melissa had brown hair, and that wasn't black.
Okay, what about the child who was like on top of it? That was definitely Aaron.
Yeah, no, Aaron was in the middle. So like, aphmau really has to... Here's the thing. aphmau really has to stretch and reach for tender moments with Derek.
Yeah, there was one moment. Actually, I'm gonna rewind a bit because we were talking about this, but yeah, I want to just say one thing about this point, like the actual thing that's going on.
The art's pretty.
Yeah, he was off in business the rest of the time. Okay, watch this. Let's see. Boom!
Dang.
Body slams a giant wolf, and they say that Ultimas have no strength.
I mean, technically still a werewolf regardless.
Yeah.
Although he's not showing his ears right now, so I don't know how much strength he... I mean, I guess he naturally has strength, maybe, when he's not showing his ears.
Ultimas do still have natural strength. Aaron as a human was able to fight people in PDH. Anyways, now we're done with that. Unfortunately, couldn't like fade out the music, but like have some like big moment at the end. But again, that comes with sample music anyway. Yeah!
Hey, Derek's dead finally!
He's gone!
Ding dong, the witch is dead, the witch is dead, the witch is dead. Ding dong. Like, I know aphmau was meant to, I know this was meant to be, oh no, Derek's dead! Like, I'm like, yay! Finally. Jeez, dog, man.
Here he comes, the vermin man. He's always ready with a trick
Or a scam. Oh my god.
Okay. Yep. So clearly, based on our reactions here, you see that the build up to the sympathy of Derek did not produce the desired reaction. Not in us now, and certainly not 5 years ago. Because I'm fairly certain if I go back and watch my other video, I'm not just being like, no, how could they do this with Derek of all people?
Not
I care about him
Derek.
so much.
Anyone but Derek is dead.
Anyone but Derek being dead would be the worst ending.
Yeah. Oh my god, everyone got massacred. Except for Derek, he's fine. That's the worst timeline that could have happened. Everyone's dead except for Derek.
Darkest timeline. So yeah, I feel like I should be giving final thoughts on this episode, but I already have. I've been saying the entire time while I thought of it that structurally, that even as far as like the order of the scenes, because having the conversation between Zach and Michael take place before Zach and Derek actually like that gives that a whole other layer that otherwise we wouldn't get from just him putting on the front. We don't need him necessarily like breaking down every time, like trying to process an answer or like, you know, floundering.
Oh wait, this was the
fact that he's not floundering in his speech. That is, yeah. This was the. I said that the red herring was this episode.
I just realized I forgot this episode was the one where it was stated that aphmau and Ian were siblings.
Yeah,
but then aphmau immediately then backtracked like a year later, like, no, they're not siblings, guy. That was a red herring trying to gaslight everyone to believing that she didn't intend on making them siblings when the clear writing states that they're siblings. Yeah, I mean, it does everything. It does everything but say aphmau and Ian as siblings. Like, it does everything but say it out loud. You know, the context in the episodes before it, the very specific conversation, the very specific wording. It does everything except for directly state that they're siblings verbally. You know.
Yeah. The thing that I said earlier was that red herrings by nature, they have to present themselves as something, as a revelation or a clue to a future revelation, and eventually they're a deception, and so it's supposed to be led to think that they're one thing they're not. However, after 5 years and after watching that episode again, I still do not have like a single answer as to like any other interpretation with that, especially because like after this video came out, the minigame sibling rivalry came out, which started the whole, you know, Ian clowned on in first person videos. That whole thing started there. So I still don't get that. I think it was more like, oh my gosh, I regret doing this this decision here, which might also be another thing about this regret. I think, but potentially, Jess and Jason both regretted how much of a monster they made Derek to be, because by this point, anyone who remembers what he did was still, if they have a vague understanding, they still would not feel terrible at all. But so that's why suddenly recontextualizing Rowan as a character, which also doesn't work for his like already got into in the parts of the video, and turning Derek into essentially a Bruce Wayne allegory, right down to him talking to Alfred. That was to hear. But if that had gone before, we'd have seen like any hints of that between Derek and Rowan beforehand, or maybe like a fourth trailer or something. I don't know. Some sort of flashback was like, oh yeah, Derek was actually for lack of a better word, human around this time. But no, we did not get that. Instead, we got constant surveillance, leaving Aaron to be alone, despite the fact that he saw that as a bad thing now. Trying to con him into the family business again. At least like allowing Rachel and Melissa to do so. Clearly not really caring one way or the other.
Yeah, which
changing because of that on the holiday magic. Yeah.
God, he was redeemed so fast with the whole holiday magic thing. Like, honestly, if you go back and look at the Christmas special,
it appeared until
yeah, but taking the Christmas special from 2016 into account, and then you realize, and then you recontextualize that with everything in Falcon Claw University and FC and Phoenix Drop High season 2.
Yeah.
And all the flashbacks in season 4, then it becomes to get to like weird because Derek acts completely different in that. Like, for example, he was perfectly fine with aphmau being married to Aaron in the holiday magic thing because he just assumed they were married and he was fine with it. He was chill with it. He wasn't like, "You're married to her?" Like, no, he was like, "Oh, this must be your wife." Like, quirky dad stuff, not, evil, abusive dad who keeps you away from people and makes you angry and manipulates you your whole life and abandons you pretty much.
He did also help out with offering to pay Aaron to revamp the lodge in the first place in order to propose to Aaron, be able to arrange the trip to Starlight Wonderland, and also pay for tickets to Starlight Wonderland in the first. That's the two good things he did, and they also resulted in terrible outcomes. Well, the lodge, admittedly, not his fault. Starlight, for crying out loud, can you not find out who the owner was?
He was such an idiot in Starlight because he knew something was going on with Michael, Zach, and Elizabeth, and his main rationale of why he didn't cut the trip short immediately after knowing that was, oh, if we try to move Aaron now, they may move up their plans, which is like,
unlike
really?
later when it was impossible to move him and the plans were already happening.
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on. So keep in mind with season 6 in account, if they got Aaron off the island for one, that would have completely ruined Michael's plan as a whole when you think about it, because he was still excavating the celestial cannon.
I don't know if it would have ruined it, but it would have made things. He still could have taken control of the Guardian forces and just had them on the mainland searching for the Ultima. Arguably would have caused a wider panic as to.
But that also would have been so much easier for him to run on the mainland, because when you're trapped on an island,
that's the advantage for them. But I'm saying that it's still possible. It's not like the plans would have been halted. It's just that it would have been worse for him. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I feel like
you have to lay another trap or something.
I don't know. It's one of those.
Or bait him with the inn.
Yeah, I just kind of wish. I mean, I don't know. Derek's just dumb. Derek is dumb.
That's the ultimate moral of this. You can try and redeem him, but I think you need more than one episode to try and do that. And yes, Christmas.
They didn't even use much of season 6 to redeem him. There was opportunities in season 6 to redeem him.
That's where we would have had to do that, because Falcon University was the last straw, and that was the last time we saw him before season 6. So yeah, it would have had to have been there. It would have had to have been during that time. But he was most of the time he was just captures. He turned himself. He often turned himself in. That's the one good action he did. Other than that, still denying.
It didn't do crap though, is what kind of frustrates me. Crumb turning himself in didn't do anything.
Well,
besides technically get him off the game board.
Okay, yeah, but he wasn't to know that. It's not like it's like that. It's not like that had to work necessarily. Arguably, like I said before, it should have worked because it's ultimately giving Michael something that he wants. But again, he had his eyes set on the worst Ultima that he could, because with the finite existence of relics, and the bloodline ending with Aaron, the Ultimas would have died out right then and there, and that would have been a terrible thing.
Well, technically they wouldn't have died out because we have his brother
That's why I think he was mentioned here. I don't know if his brother has
I have beef with
alive.
it. I have beef
if his
with
brother's
it.
alive at all.
Yeah, but I have beef with the introduction of the brother. You know why? Because the brother
there
came out
isn't
of
one?
nowhere. No, the brother came out of nowhere.
I don't mind that because it wasn't. It's because I think that was like hinting that he has a brother, and then in what was supposed to be season 7, there would be a bit more about that. So that's just like that. Essentially, is what we do in our shows. We like sow the seeds of ideas, especially you.
Yeah.
And then eventually like, build on them later. That's the thing.
I just kind of wish she actually built on it, and now MyStreet's in limbo, probably never to return, or to
so set up with no payoff. Yes, that's what it is. So we would need that payoff. There's a lot of things. Those are things in like the entirety of MyStreet, not just season 6, but the entirety of MyStreet that needs some sort of conclusion. And having waited now almost 5 years since the conclusion of it, and as of yesterday, 8 years since the creation of it. That's not going to come across because again, if aphmau was relying on the audience forgetting certain things for this episode to work, relying on her own memory to remember everything up until this point, is probably not going to work. Hopefully, at some point she'll like sit down and let's just watch the rest of it like back again, or check other scripts or other
she won't.
ideas.
She won't.
She's done it before. She's done look backs at MyStreet before. That's why I knew certain things about season 1. It's like as trivia things like from streams that aphmau herself did.
Look back, like she'd have to watch all of MyStreet to get the full picture.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's as we can attest to, that takes a while.
Yeah. I mean, Derek as a character is just kind of frustrating, and I don't know. I wouldn't mind Derek being an abusive dad if the narrative actively acknowledged the fact that he's an abusive dad. He's not a good person. He's trying to be.
This episode it did. That's the thing.
I guess.
Because Falcon Claw, the climax was like the confrontation between Aaron and Derek, and setting up like how he came to be to this way he was in the big move. It's only in this episode where they backtrack that in order to try and make you feel bad for him, and it fails.
Yeah.
Which makes the rest of it slightly better, and this one slightly worse.
I feel bad for his family. But they're just kind of innocent victims in this whole, pseudo-innocent. Rachel still did some terrible stuff. Not as bad as Derek.
Melissa
and so did
too.
Melissa. I mean, Melissa did the least bad stuff, but she still did bad stuff.
She was out on the front lines as one of the major antagonistic forces in season 3 consistently.
But she didn't. I guess she didn't fully grasp how bad she was being, and I guess by the end of the season she realized it. Versus when you compare it to Rachel, after Rachel was called out, she begged Aaron to stay still, and didn't. And after Aaron showed how hurt he was, she didn't really care.
If anything, this is Melissa moments of him realizing what he's done. It just comes too little, too late, and then he has to once again repeat the same sacrifice that his father did, asking the same question his father did before. That was actually like a decent parallel. We kind of knew where this was going anyway. But...
I mean, I don't mind that paralleling, but I kind of do wish that it was the idea of that parallel was introduced earlier into the story.
Yeah, it's all the execution.
Because sometimes when I do thematic parallels between certain events, okay, like I'm going to compare it to Adam and Fallen Angels. So,
okay, but quickly, because my battery's running out.
Okay, so Adam in season 1, episode 1, basically was willing to sacrifice his current life, you know what I mean? Like his current, like every day to day, to save an innocent person. And then once we get flashbacks to his human life later in season 1, and then like start in episode 9, we get to see how he died, and he ultimately died saving a young girl from her mother who was going to hurt her. But it's one of those thematic things with the character where it's like his original death parallels his actions when he saved Alana and put his life on a new track. And similar thing to some of Zach's actions in season 2, for example. Zach in season 1, episode 10, was willing to sacrifice himself to save Adam from Key and then cut to season 2, episode 2, where we see flashbacks of Zach in his human life, and we get to see how he was willing to sacrifice himself for his best friend in life, being Mike.
That's something why they were chosen to be angels in the first place.
Yeah.
And if they hadn't have both of those things, it wouldn't work. It's like Derek has the sacrifice, but not the actual build up to it. Okay, that's it for now. I tried to say this very fast, but I'm at 3% right now, so I'm really trying to wrap this up. So please be like, or just
because your opinion matters.
And on that note, until next time, farewell.
Yeah.